All right, we got a guest in studio. He goes by the name of Georgie Ndirangu. He's a BBC journalist, and we're so grateful to have you here.
Morning.
How are you?
Very good. How come you're behaving with me? And Mbunde?
Yeah.
Mazee.
Hata na udem.
Ngoja, zako zitakam. So, hiyo kadi ya arrest redeem. Umesikia hizo ngoma mbili. Think carefully. Kabla ujibu. Na unajua interview yako inaanza.
To be honest,
just say Aline.
Aline yenyewe our faces touched about 9 years ago.
So lazima haujaiosha hiyo side ya uso.
Hata love.
Mimi nilisalimia Christopher Martin na hii mkono. Mkono hata kwa box mumwambia ngati hivi tu.
Who has asked you? All right, when we come back, Georgie, we're going to be speaking to you about your journey, in journalism. Ladies and gentlemen, those who are tuned in, of course, it's On My Grind. And today we're going to be talking about journalism. Don't touch that dial.
Vibes Radio, we rule the nation in this generation.
Oh man, you're hanging out with Kwamboka Brian Mbunde. We got you all the way to 10 a.m. And in studio, we got Georgie Ndirangu. Now, in case you don't know him, let me give you a bit of an intro.
BBC Africa Eye launched in April 2018, broadcasting bi-weekly in multiple languages across the African continent.
Now, about 20 years ago, Haile Selassie, the world-renowned runner, was actually facing one of the biggest challenges in his life.
Mwandishi wa BBC kitengo cha biashara Georgie Ndirangu yuko mjini Sochi.
Haya basi, leo ilikuwa siku ya mwisho ya mkutano wa Urusi na bara la Afrika mjini Sochi.
Georgie Ndirangu. So you can speak English and Kiswahili.
I was wondering who this imposter is. You're listening to yourself on radio.
So I'm just going to get right into it. How long have you been a journalist?
7 years, properly about 7 years. Yeah, we started off in Rwanda. When I left here, I was doing finance, logistics at the ministry. Back when it was lands and housing, the same ministry. And then a lot happened. Went to Rwanda, started radio, did a quick entertainment show. And then business happened, and then so I've done properly business news for about 6 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're just thank you for wrapping up the interview, and that's all you needed to get today.
Nobody can stop reggae. Bye.
Bye. I'm just gonna wheel it back. So when you finished university, what had you studied?
Actuarial science.
Actuarial science.
Yeah, a lot of math.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You were just like, oh my God, I'm going to count.
I'm going to
count numbers.
At that time, I'd been an intern at the Ministry of Land, so all I did was archiving. But you've left home in the morning, you've worn a suit, you're telling people I'm going to work at the ministry.
And what does archiving look like?
Taking a file, exactly what you're thinking. You take a file from this pile, you take it to the other room. Take a pile from this file to the other room.
What?
9 to 5.
So uchukue tu zote uende home.
Wezi.
Ongeze tu zote after hiyo.
Atalipwaje kana afanye hiyo kitu one time?
No, as an intern you don't get paid.
Oh.
Aye.
Okay. But you can experience. Yeah, archiving.
And you're exposed to the archiving.
So when you finish, you unaingia hapo archives unatafuta job ingine ama?
Akaizia tao.
Dude, so you were doing that, and I'm because there's a lot of people who are listening to you right now, and there are people who have even PhDs who are just like, I just need to get into that internship, even if it's as mundane as what you've just described. I want to do it. How are you? What was your state of mind at that point?
The most confusing thing about where we were at the time was because our head of accounting used to get paid, I think, about 38,000 Kenyan shillings. And this is snitching, but so he used to get paid 38,000. But every time when we were in the room, someone would come from, I don't know, we've brought you curtains from Egypt, we brought you a carpet from Russia, and he would afford it.
Yeah.
So we knew as a fact that he was getting money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? But so it was so confusing for me to wonder, is this the career I want where you make 30K legit?
Yeah.
When it's taxed, you go home with 15K and you can still afford to have a suit. So it was very confusing. I didn't understand how the system worked.
Corruption.
Until a bit later. Well,
greasy.
Greasing and creasing. You could say that, yeah.
Because, we had a story of another guy earlier this week in a parastatal who was, found himself in hot soup when he couldn't explain how with the salary of 100K, he has 110 million in 1 year. in his account. So, that kind of business.
Yeah.
So you were sitting there in the Ministry of Lands. Then what? You then say, mimi nimeenda Rwanda bye.
No, not yet. So I did internship about 3 times. In uni you have that mandatory internship. So after that, then they started giving me at least some stipend, about 1,000 bob and whatnot, so that I would survive. And then because I had a girlfriend at the time, whenever we had a holiday, they would say, Ndirangu, take 2,000.
Wow.
Spoil yourself.
God
Spend.
damn.
Tell them who you are.
Yeah.
Chafua meza. Tusione.
Yeah.
And then after that, so I think just a few, because I had been doing some modeling on the side. You know, Mbunde doesn't know about the six
Aye,
packs.
najua.
Let me talk to Kwamboka.
Yeah.
hadi najua hiyo company by the way ilikuwa itwa fashion to die for ama gani
Their daddy.
no wonder nilikuwa joy hii sura
ulikuwa kwa hiyo nini fashion house pia?
Hapana, shida ni
Tulikuwa
mademo
very
walikuwa
selective. Tulikuwa very selective.
mademo alikuwa tuacha maze.
Brian Mbunde akushopoa.
So of course with Tidiful we set up an office at Norwich Union, and at that time Norwich Union wasn't the Norwich it is now.
Yeah.
If you had an office there, you were doing something.
You were doing it.
Yeah. So one thing led to another. I had a partner called Afshon. He went to Rwanda before me. Met some guys. He was very entrepreneurial. Met some guys. Alafu a few months later, he tells me, you know what? Actually, we might need your expertise in logistics and accounting in Rwanda.
Oh wow.
Come through.
And you just up and left.
And that's the one time I was telling this story earlier. That's the one time in my life I was in an argument with my ma. My ma is like my best friend,
Yeah.
so that's the only time we were arguing. So like 3 days before, I tell her I'm leaving. I'm leaving Kenya. I'm going somewhere else. She's like, okay. When are you back? I said, I'm not coming back.
Wow.
Yeah, the only time. So I don't know how she allowed, but finally she says, okay, you know what, actually it's okay.
Yeah.
Just be safe, ask your dad, because my dad had worked in Burundi, but he wasn't living around.
Yeah.
He'd stayed in the States for about 12 years. So I asked him, he said, all I know about Rwanda is what we knew from the past, you know, what happened in 94.
Yeah.
So one thing led to another. All I remember is my girlfriend waving Kwaheri at the bus stop, telling me, please don't go.
I just want to
Please don't
ask.
go.
You mean you left your girlfriend behind?
My life.
Kwamboka.
Vibes Radio, we rule the nation in this generation.
All right, we got Georgie Ndirangu, a journalist from the BBC, telling us his interesting story of how he found himself in journalism. So at this point, you know, the whole story you've told us so far, hakuna hata journalism umefungua mdomo yako kutuambia.
Nope, not even once.
So you were in Kenya, you're doing a finance job in the lands ministry as an intern, and then you've opened your side hustle over there, Tao, and then you've now found yourself in Rwanda.
Exactly.
So when you arrived in Rwanda like this?
So you reach Rwanda and you're thinking, this is not the Rwanda I was told. You know. So let me explore for myself. So the guy who had called us, he had a 5-bedroom house. We're living nice. But what we didn't realize is that we had not signed any agreement for him to start paying us. We had just discussed it,
Yeah.
right? So 170k francs, which is maybe like 20k, something like that. No, actually 100k francs. Let's say 15k.
Yeah.
So we set up, we go and we're shown the house. We live nice. We put our suitcases. Everyone has a bedroom. So then we start working. 1 month passes, 2 months, 3 months, no salary.
Wow.
You're just thinking, okay. And then we ask him, and then he says, no, things are happening. You know, the mother company hasn't financed. The budget has not been approved. You know, the usual. And I was using a BlackBerry at the time. You know how broke you have to be to not have airtime for a BlackBerry?
Oh, that is broke. That is even with BBM.
2012. With BBM.
Oh, you broke.
100 francs, 15 bob, you can't even afford that. So he used to give us some cash. You know, now you've become like the guy who gets handouts. And you've come from the ministry.
Oh my God.
Ministry.
Yeah.
So we got that, and then I remember one time, the worst point in my life. We come back, and so we've been told, okay, let's go to the radio side. So we go to the mother company where the radio was, and then we're told, you know what, since that side is not working, just try and do something here. Maybe shadow a few people, see what's happening.
Yeah.
At that time, we've refused to go back to Kenya, right? Because something is just like, nah, it has to work. Also, you've also told everyone, deuces.
Yeah, deuces.
Deuces, you guys. Kwani, you don't know what's up? I'm an expatriate now. So
we ain't making nothing so far.
so we do that, and then one time we went to the house and it was locked.
Haya.
The house had fungered, and apparently the guys had not been paying rent.
Wow.
For 6 months.
What?
Right? So 6 long months, and it's not the one where at TCG they remove your clothes and whatever you had left with in the morning
Stays.
you stay with only that. Everything in the house stayed in the house. So
my
I had
God.
a jacket, a shirt, pants. Everything else was in the house for 3 months. We were not able to access it. Mind you, we're not making any money.
Hiya.
So we had to depend on like you get 100K here, 200
Yeah.
francs,
Yeah.
300 francs. Now you go to the market, you buy a shirt, you change this. You don't wear this suit today, tomorrow you're in the cold so that
Yeah.
you can wear it the day after.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened. And then one thing led to another. And then after the shadowing, the guy said, you know what, actually, just start on radio. You'll give us 5 minutes of English. And luckily at the time is when Rwanda was trying to bring in English into the Kenya-Rwanda system, right? So
Because that's what they speak there, Kenya-Rwanda.
a lot of Kenya-Rwanda
Yeah.
now, but now English, Kenya-Rwanda, and French are very dominant.
Yeah.
And then so that and then Swahili. So that happened, and then one time the owner of the TV got a loan from a bank, and he said he was going to set up a TV, the first private TV in Rwanda.
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, who were the people to be asked? The people who were already there, cheaper labor.
Yeah.
But this time they had started paying me 150,000 francs, which is 20K, right? You're making good money. In Rwanda,
You're
right?
making money.
From nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So because you can't even remember what was happening in Kenya.
Yeah.
And then so that happened. So you're thinking, okay, the auditions happened, and then they said all of you have gone through. You can now start off on TV. Thinking, I told you
Fabulous.
guys, I've made it.
Yeah.
So the salary comes and it's 170,000 francs, which is 22,000.
So mongezewa 2,000
Exactly.
from radio to TV.
Show them
And
who you are.
of that cash, I went to the bank after a few months and got a loan for a MacBook. Because I mean,
Yeah, the
you,
guy.
you can't buy a
With a-
HP when you're an
90.
expatriate. But, so of the 22K, about 10-15K is going to the
pay the
loan.
loan.
Yeah.
This one is going for rent. This one is going for what? So you're left with like 2K to survive, and you're on TV, so you have to change, you have to dress up, you have to make appearances.
Yeah.
So that's the journey until then.
What? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the edge of our seats. I hope you are too. When we come back, we're going to find out how Georgie turned his life around and became one of the biggest journalists in BBC Africa today.
Vibes Radio, we rule the nation in this generation.
And if you know me, you know that Sanaipei Tande is my favorite. She's my Beyonce. Yeah, I said it. She's my Beyonce. You can say she does no wrong in my eyes. That's Rasta Man. And of course, Kenyan reggae. Just feeling so nice. Wachana na Brian mwenye anatuambia sijui reggae roadblock. Ridimo is still going on. Who's leading?
You need love. You need love in your life, Kwambox.
Why?
Yeah, you just need love in your life.
I do,
Ndio
I
uanze
do.
kupenda wakina Chris Martin hapa. Kawaida ni bado mimi ndo na lead.
Where? Where? Ah, damn
Kwambox,
it.
we, wacha kutumia parody account zako.
You guys vote for Alain. Come on.
Don't
I
worry.
got love.
Yeah, we have around 15 minutes to announce a winner, but don't worry. Yeah, bado mimi na lead. So hata msimsaidie.
This is painful, guys. I might not show up to work tomorrow if I don't win. I hate losing. Who Alain nani? Nani alimwambia hang out na Willy Paul?
Unaona Chris Martin at least alikuwa na hang out na kina Future Fambo, D Major. Sasa ameenda kana jua twa ni
Wait,
nini.
unakumbuka Future Fambo on stage? We're going to discuss that. Let's
yeah.
go back to speaking to Georgie. So Georgie, of course, who's a BBC journalist. So far, umesikia kitu yote juu ya journalism except sahi ndio journalism inaanza. So the TV station is set up. You're there. What next?
Right. So around that time now, because it was the first private TV, a lot of the people even in the country, and if you know how Rwanda positions itself,
Yeah.
they try to focus on progress, development, and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it was the perfect time for a private TV to start because the country also wanted to support, the private entities.
Yeah.
So they used to send ministers when you make a request to interview a minister, a CEO, whatnot.
What?
They come to the TV.
Yeah.
So one of the people who's a referee on my CV is the Minister for Youth and ICT, former minister, because he's the first huge guy I ever got to interview. And I remember after our interview, he told me, you know what, actually, let's see a way we can involve the youth in some of these conversations and whatnot. So it's something called Youth Connect.
Yeah.
So we started Youth Connect 2015, around 2013.
Yeah.
Where we were connecting with people on a small screen, and they would connect from a different part of Rwanda,
Yeah.
and we would talk about youth issues and whatnot. So one thing led to another. At this time, you're still being paid 20,000
Yeah.
or what. So
And you're interviewing ministers
yeah,
and
of
whatnot.
course,
You know,
of
it's
course.
important we mention this because a lot of people ask for jobs they see you in that space and they're like, yo, how do I get there? And they're like, they think the first day they will be out there, even if they're interviewing the president, then you must be making bucks.
Oh man, I remember actually when I transitioned, I'll tell the story then, but even when I transitioned, my boss told me, you can't want to interview President Kagame now. If you interview him when you start your career, what do you have to look forward to?
Exactly.
But now, in regards to the other bit about suffering, at least when you're starting off, for me, I didn't have much option. I had to make it where I was. And then other businesses, of course, you've tried to apply here and there, but they've told you, we can't guarantee you a visa because whatever you're doing, other Rwandans can do and whatnot. I remember my HR told me, I can't give you a visa. Anyone can do whatever you're doing for journalism, right? So one thing led to another, and of course, they always say you never know. Someone's always watching.
Yeah.
So the people who were watching were the CNBC guys.
Wow.
So we did one event with Youth Connect and the UN, and at that time, I remember they reached out and they said, actually, we'd like to interview you for what? We go to the interview, and then you've just chilled. I remember it was a Friday. At that time, I had just told my housemate at the time that, of course, you have a housemate because with that cash, you can't survive anywhere, right? So I told my housemate, man, I'm done with Rwanda. I'm going back to Rwanda in 2 weeks. So right now, I'm just wrapping up. Then I think 2 hours later, an email came in saying, we went through the process and we've given you this offer letter. And they were paying, because I was getting 170,000. They were paying 10 times.
Wow.
So 1.7 M as CNBC.
Yeah.
I remember waking up. I didn't even shower. I put on my coat. I went to TV10, the private TV, and told them I
Bye.
quit. My MD says, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Sir, calm down, calm down. So he asked me, the first thing he asked me is, how much are they paying you? Which I found very unfair because him being my friend, we had developed friendship. I thought he would ask me, oh man, congrats, where are you going? Is it a better opportunity and stuff like that? So that's the things that a lot of young guys don't get. They want an exit quick at any point because the employees as well, they have their own interests.
Yes.
So that happened. And I remember my first salary, and I love this part of the story because my first salary found me in the air going to Dubai.
Wow.
I hadn't even checked in yet. I hadn't even received the salary yet. It found me in the air. I said, that was my first time outside Africa when I was 25. Going to Dubai.
Yeah.
And when I landed, I spent maybe like $200, $300 because my friends were there. But I remember that time saying, and I saw the skyline, I said, my life will never be the same. Yeah.
Okay. So you're at CNBC at this point. I mean, we've seen a lot of the work you were doing at CNBC, but how did you get to BBC?
Right. So I think Larry Madowo at the time was at NTV, I think, or KTN, and he had worked at CNBC as well. So I think he was in the crowd when we were doing the interview with the 7 presidents, 7 heads of state.
Yeah.
Small flex.
Wow.
Just,
so you're hosting, at this point, you're hosting 7 presidents.
But that is after a few interviews, and you've gone to Switzerland for World Economic Forum, and we've done this. Like it feels like such a rosy story. Yeah. But the heart and the sweat behind it, it was the tough bit, where like you try and people say, no, you're not qualified enough. You're not anywhere, and you have to constantly prove yourself. So 3 years, 4 years later in the game, 2017. I remember we're in the room, and I think what I remember the most about that room was people from Mali, from the Mali president delegation saying, you interrupted our president when he was speaking. And they went with that, and they constantly just make jokes about it, and they laugh and say, that journalist who interrupted the president. Yes. I remember Biko Zulu was told by Emmanuel Jambo, Biko Zulu asked Emmanuel, who's that guy when we were doing some trip, and Emmanuel says, that's the guy who interrupted the president. That's a nice CV.
Dude,
that would be the name of my book.
So at this point, you've pretty much conquered what you went to do in Rwanda.
Not really, because I mean, at that time we hadn't had a one-on-one with the president yet. We just had, a lot of back and forth and understanding what journalism means. So we do that, and I think now Larry being in the room, I think that was the first time he ever saw me in action, and that's why I'm saying you never know who's watching, right? And there were a lot of employees. So at that time, you start to receive offers from communication guys, these global bodies and NGOs telling you, can you come and do a strategy or communications or whatnot? And then you're thinking, no, I can't leave this job that has changed my life. You're so loyal to the cause. Tony Elumelu, this Nigerian millionaire, we met in Switzerland. He said, we'll give you a job at UBA. I said, no. So
So doors are opening.
Doors are opening, and you can't. You're still stuck in that mentality of no, I'm so loyal to this cause and whatnot. But so now CNBC happens, and then in 2018, around July, August, that's when the call for BBC came, and I'd always been trying to get a way to come back to Kenya.
Yeah.
I'd been away 8 years, so you're thinking, what's the best way to come back? And don't forget, you left like almost as a star, right?
Yeah.
Like your social status is alright. You're hanging out with the who's and who's, and your family's okay. So you're coming back. You have to come back with something.
Yeah.
So BBC came right at that time when like I was trying to see what was going to happen. And so they called. They were not going to pay a lot more, but it seemed like the doors were going to just open from there.
Yeah.
Like the system was going to be a bit different from that.
And has it been?
Yeah, it has. So what BBC has done is that it's allowed you to practice proper journalism, right? So it was mostly focused on business at CNBC, but now you're able to do sports, health.
Yeah.
The thing about the BBC is that the toughest bit is getting in. I remember I applied 4 times. My colleague from Rwanda applied 11 times.
Yeah.
So you imagine being told 11 times, no. But you're not good enough. Just
Yeah.
wait. You're not good enough.
Yeah.
And then you come here and you're thinking, this is why they were telling us it's not good enough, because it's worth the wait. So to anyone who's listening, I would say I could give you a link, even on my social media.
Yeah.
Apply as much as possible. We have so many openings, and not only BBC. I mean, we can chat all day about the kind of avenue you have if you don't have a proper 9 to 5. But I will say, write it out. So your break might come after 2 months, after 20 years, it doesn't matter, but you have to write it out.
I feel like the highlight of this whole story is the fact that you left Kenya, not sure of what you was going to get on the other side, but you and with there's no things set out there, and you went there and made something from nothing, and then came back and now continued. That I think that's a powerful story. Georgie, I feel like we will invite you again back. So now we can talk about just journalism and some of the stories. For those of you who don't know who Georgie Ndirangu is, how do they find you online?
I'm Georgie Ndirangu on every social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Skype, LinkedIn, Tinder, TikTok. What's up?
Hey, have you come here looking for a girlfriend?
No. We're good on that front.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see how you ask questions of if you're in a relationship. Speaking of girlfriends.
Yeah.
Vibes Radio, we rule the nation in this generation.